So, I, that's right. It's about voluntarism. Me too. I want to end slavery. I believe, the draft violates the Emancipation Proclamation. I want to fix those problems, and the question is how best to fix them. And you see, if we see the governments of the world as private organizations, going back to the more or less criminal-like organizations that they start as. Sometimes, literally, it's in the ancient times, just a bunch of guys from Athens who got together as a business venture and went and raped and pillaged some villages. And they systematized that until it was the capital of what became a nation. This city-state became a government, through this criminal enterprise. And they're just like, let's save everybody some time. We're not going to come out there and I saw some video recently that was from the objectivist line, I think, or something along that, and talking about how government came from the church, which I do not believe. It came from this practice. Government, as we know it, came from this practice of oppression, okay, private criminal organizations. And we gave into that, and we started trying to say, well, just treat us better. We act great. When you are oppressing us, at least you protect us from the other oppressors. Let's make a deal. And the protection racket was born, and truly the protected one tried to get a better and better deal because the deal started out pretty crappy for them. So granted, and now we're in this situation, the question is how to get this voluntarism that we want. When you see a government as a private organization, you see its crimes differently, but also the solutions have to be different. Now, for people that immigrate into the country, they actually sign something. Okay, so they are voluntarily in the system. Now, according to objectivism or minarchy or market anarchy or libertarianism, they have made that agreement. Now, depending on what philosophy you're using, they have different rights in terms of breaking the agreement. But they have made an agreement, okay? Now, for those of us who either came over before that or just those of us that were born here, then what's the situation there? What would we need to be able to be voluntarist? Well, one problem is, so in other words, you have the government, a private organization. You've walked onto the country club and you've said, I want to join. Okay, and they say, well, okay, you can join, but you're gonna have to, we can call you for obligations, like protecting the common property, like paying, a fee, a yearly fee. But, you can make money in here. There's ways to make money, and we just are going to take, less than all of it. So it should work out in your benefit. And you think about it, and you go, okay, so you go inside. Obviously, you've made the agreement. And if you want to break the agreement, they can kick you out, right? If next year comes and you don't want to pay the taxes, they can kick you out. Now, the issue is, well, there were some people in there before the agreement was made. Okay. Well, it's questionable what you can do with them, right? Because why is it your property instead of theirs? But most of the people in this country are covered by this immigration issue. So, we can at least deal with that example to see, how a large body of the population can be dealt with ethically. Okay, so we have the immigrant. I think there's no question the immigrants made a voluntarist, compliant decision. Now, that person has a child. Okay, until the child's 18, the child could be there under the auspices of our child guardianship standards, our laws on, the child basically being associated with the adult and held to the requirements. In other words, if you have to pay an extra tax because you have a kid, or you get to pay less tax because you have a kid, those conditions will confer upon the parent. I'm just trying to be careful. I'm not saying all of this applies directly. I've thought this through, but I'm thinking it through again right now. So the child reaches the age of majority. Well, I shouldn't say obviously, because I'm not sure that it's obvious, but don't you think that, okay, now I can ask the child, do you want the deal? And if the child doesn't want the deal, they have to get off our property, right? As soon as they become a legal entity, with the sense of their own property, then there's a property rights conflict, and it has to be resolved by looking at historic property rights. You know, the kid doesn't just get to say, I have a right to this land, so I'm not leaving. I was born here, I can stay here, right? Or is that what we're going on? I mean, you could make a social system based on, I was born here, so I have a right, but I don't think anybody's proposing that. So, you know, assuming we have a property right, free travel situation. So what's missing at that point in the case of the country is that the 18-year-old can't do that very easily. You can decide to leave the country, okay, and then you will end up not having to pay taxes when you become a citizen of another country. It's just that that's not very easy. These country clubs all butt up against each other, and none of them sees a reason to make a particularly free market deal of the situation. And I believe in a free market deal of the situation. I think we need open borders. And then maybe there could be a market of governments. But notice we're pretty close now, because you can emigrate, it's just not easy enough. And I don't see the objectivists just as primarily focusing on the right to emigrate, on open borders. Is that a big objectivist and libertarian and market anarchist goal? Probably the market anarchists most believe in it, but even they don't. And I'm not really sure on actually Rand's views on borders. But even so, they don't focus a lot of their effort. And it seems to me, wow, you could really solve this system just making it easy to go from government to government. All the governments are corrupt. Well, you know, we're told by free market advocates that that can't happen in an open market. So if you had open markets, maybe the governments would get better. According to your theory, they should just naturally get better the more free you make the market of governments. And I think that's true to a certain degree. I think if people could emigrate, you know, because if, certainly all the smart people would go just about anywhere in the world to the middle of a desert, you know, to flee, you know, some oppressive dictatorship where they couldn't do their research or be free thinking like they tend to be. So, I mean, that's kind of the point. I mean, what do you guys want besides emigration? Now, the thing is, too, is what about all of these people that can't be forced in some sense? I mean, what if we did give them the choice and we said, listen, you can either be part of this collective of our property, sign on to the Constitution and agree to the obligations as they currently exist, and including the rules of how they can change via legislation. Either sign on to that or you leave the country. Okay, do you think people would accept that? Because that's a pretty big deal, right? It's a big package deal. And this is the thing about monopolization, is one way you do force monopolization is with big package deals. And people need one thing a lot, and the others they'd rather get from somewhere else, but better to get the crappy thing from you and the thing they really need. So this does get onto the other thing, which is, I'm not saying this makes things okay. See, I'm the one that's for antitrust law and control of markets. I'm for control of private organizations in the form of regulation. Not totalitarian control, not micromanagement, but just in the form of regulation, you know, like, you might think reasonable regulations about the environment and things like this. And the reason is because everything is private. If we're going to have any system on the social scale, it's going to have to be conscious. You know, it's going to have to be intentional. You know, you don't get circulation systems and delicately engineered things just by accident, except for the fact that the accidents leads to evolution, leads to intelligence, leads to the ability to do things intentionally. So, I mean, obviously you can find out good things by accident, but really, when you have a very well engineered system, what you do is engineer it. So, anyway, cheers.